Hi guys, and welcome back to the Caribbean Spot. In today's video, we are covering the fight against transparency. Let's get into it. Thank you for your transparency. Before we begin, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Prime Minister Gaston Browne for blessing the public with a spreadsheet. A simple list that anyone could type up and call transparency, or so they say. Because the minute real subpoenas were served, demanding real financial records, the fight for secrecy began. The spreadsheet was not transparency, it was damage control, rushed after US subpoenas dropped. Full of sloppy errors, missing receipts, double counts, and fake debt payments. Why fight if you're clean? That's the question. They gave us a spreadsheet and called it transparency. They expected us to accept it. No receipts. Little receipts. No audits. No proof. But then came the subpoenas. Not guesses, not rumors, real subpoenas. Authorized by a US federal judge who feared evidence would be destroyed. Real documents were demanded. Real financial trails were called into question. And what happened? They didn't just refuse, they fought tooth and nail to block disclosure. Antigua's prime minister, ministers, port officials, even the West Indies Oil Company all moved urgently in US federal court to silence the subpoenas. They claimed it was about privacy. They claimed it was about burden. They even argued that exposure would harm Antigua's reputation. Somebody help me clarify this line. They argued that exposure would harm Antigua's reputation. Really? Then what's really in there? Now I'm curious. But ask yourself, if there's nothing to hide, why fight transparency? If the spreadsheet is so clean, what are you so desperate to block from coming out that would harm Antigua's reputation? Because the real truth, it never fears the light. Who got subpoenaed and what the court was after? This isn't a rumor. This isn't a blog. This is the US federal court, and the subpoenas are real. In March 2025, Judge Jesse M. Furman of the U.S. Southern District of New York authorized ex parte subpoenas without notice because the court believed officials may obstruct or manipulate evidence if given notice. Memorandum of Law, page 17. The subpoenas demanded banking, wire, and payment records from Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the Clearinghouse Payments Company LLC, targeting transactions from January the 1st, 2019 to present, covering Gaston Browne, Maria Bird Brown, Gaston Browne III, Hyacinth Harris, Darwin Telemark, Accountant General of Antigua, West Indies Oil Company Limited, WIOC, Fancy Bridge Limited, linked to Venezuela's PDVSA, If Antigua Inc., Swiss X, linked entities and offshore trusts, Eastern Caribbean Amalgamated Bank, and Global Bank of Commerce. This wasn't about one sale. It was a full financial sweep across 5 years, targeting international transfers, oil links, and offshore accounts. So when they say they're transparent, ask, Why did a U.S. judge fear obstruction? And what are these financial actors so desperate to keep off the record? So, who fought the subpoenas? Everybody. That's just a straight up answer. Everyone did. The subpoenas didn't target random people. They were aimed precisely at the key figures tied to the Alpha Nero sale, the money trails, and the public claims of transparency. And how did they respond? They fought hard. In the U.S. court, case number 1:25-MC-00098, filed in March 2025, the Antigua and Movans, that's what they're called, right? Including Prime Minister Gaston Browne, Minister Maria Bird Brown, Gaston Browne III, Darwin Telemack, Hyacinth Harris, Account General Urquhart Roberts, If Antigua Inc., Farmer D.G. Brown Co. Limited, Cove Head Communications Limited, West Indies Oil Company, all ran to court, not to hand over documents, not to confirm their transparency, but to block the subpoenas completely. And what they argued, their arguments that they made were, again, privacy rights, damage to Antigua's reputation, burdensome to gather records. Like, really? Too broad, too embarrassing. Let's be clear. They didn't argue that the documents would clear them. They didn't say, we'll show the receipts. They said, it's too private, it's too damaging, it's too embarrassing. They cried privacy. They cried burden. They cried embarrassment. But here it is. They never cried, not once, never once cried innocence. Enters WIOC. Collecting money, then fighting disclosure. Receipts, or should we say, the unaudited spreadsheet, show that West Indies Oil Company, WIOC, allegedly collected nearly 700,000 US dollars, more than $500,000, for fuel for the Alpha Nero, from the Alpha Nero proceeds. Payments to West Indies Oil Company for fuel, supplies, and this is the exact figure based on the spreadsheet that I could have typed up. $694,385.19 US dollars. That is 1.87 EC dollars, Eastern Caribbean dollars. They had no issue accepting those payments, according to the Prime Minister's spreadsheet, not my findings, right? According to the spreadsheet, I didn't type it up. As the Prime Minister who typed up that. But when the subpoenas dropped, WIOC rushed to the courts to block any disclosure about those financial records. Transparency when collecting, secrecy when questioned. And the argument? They claim producing basic wire transfer records would cause undue burden, that revealing would pain them, and where the money went would somehow violate their privacy. I summarize. But if WIOC truly operated above board, if the transactions were clean and proper, then why not proudly show the contract with the government, the proof of fuel deliveries? I'm sure there's cameras around the place that would see probably a truck showing up at the private marina. Yeah? We're coming to that. Follow along. The dates, the amounts, the wire transfer. Maybe even say, yeah, man, Tommy to drive the blue truck that day. I remember Tommy. We have a record right here. None of that. Because guess what? The payment wasn't even tied clearly to the Alpha Nero sale. ECCB receipts reference existing balances, not the yacht proceeds. If everything was clean, again, why fight this hard to keep the truth hidden? And existing balances, that box that is checked off on the receipts that's public for everyone to see, this can mean either two things. You already had money there, so you're using that money, right, as your existing credit, your existing balance in your account, right? Or it can mean, well, the money was deposited and now that Alpha Nero funds is with your original set of money that's in that bank, in the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, so you have an existing credit. That is iffy. And I'm still waiting on the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to respond to my email. Thank you. Let's proceed. The maintenance mirage. Double payments? And financial fog? They said that they paid monthly. They said they protected the public's money. They said they covered the Alpha Nero's costs. But the receipts and their own spreadsheet tell a much different story. Prime Minister Gaston Browne publicly claimed that the government spent over $2 million maintaining the Alpha Nero before the yacht was sold. And this is of April 13, 2025, on Antigua news broadcast. He said those expenses covered upkeep, fuel, docking, and other incidentals. And our source is the Antigua news broadcast, April 13, 2025. But when we follow the money, on July 24, 2024, nearly a week after the $40 million Alpha Nero sale, the government paid $2.9 million to Marina and Resort Limited, owned by a political ally, well-known political ally, Mr. Falcone. The justification? Outstanding fees and expenses tied to the docking of the Alpha Nero, referenced in a letter of undertaking dated July 15, 2024. So follow me. July 24th, 2024 is when they got the money. The Marina received the letter July 15, 2024, days before the money hit the ECCB. I didn't see like a wire transfer for that, so we're waiting. And that wasn't all. They also reimbursed themselves $1.736 million listed as reimbursement to government of Antigua and Barbuda for weekly payments, to Marina and Resort Limited for crew expenses. And this is in the spreadsheet. Supposedly covering from April 11th, 2023, follow along, to June 14th, 2024. But here's a bombshell the spreadsheet doesn't tell you. The government of Antigua blocked the Alpha Nero from leaving in early March 2023. The ship was already entrapped, stopped from departing by port authority orders. So by the time April 11, 2023 rolled around, the start of their claimed weekly maintenance payments, the Alpha Nero was already trapped under government control for over a month. Meaning they seized it, they stopped it, they trapped it, then they billed the public to maintain it. They entrapped it, then quietly shifted the cost onto you, the taxpayer. And the financial smoke only gets thicker. They claim they were paying weekly, but then paid the Marina a massive lump sum after the sale. They reimbursed themselves 1.7 million and then turn around and paid 2.96 million more. That's nearly 4.7 million US dollars sent to, part of it sent to a political ally with no detailed invoices, no receipts, no maintenance logs, and no independent audit provided to the public. And the justification kept shifting. First, it was weekly crew payments. Then we see the $2.9 million is for crew, security, and other expenses. No explanation of what changed, no breakdown of costs, no transparency. If the government was paying weekly for the crew, why? Why were security and other expenses somehow left unpaid? And if the government, if the maintenance was covered month by month, why was there an outstanding bill of nearly $3 million? Where are the original service contracts? Where are the monthly invoices? Where is the crew list of maintenance schedule? Because based on the documents disclosed, they reimbursed themselves without showing proof they paid anything first. The lump sum paid to a political ally without public tender. And they shifted their story once the spotlight turned on. This comes from these sources: Antigua News Broadcast, April 13, 2025. The PM remarks: the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank payment from AG 137/24. The U.S. District Court case number 1:25-MC-00098. The government spreadsheet disclosure dated March 16, 2025. And again, the verified Alpha Nero timeline, visa blocked between March 3rd to the 5th, 2023. Port Authority actions. Now, the software smokescreen. Where did the money really go? The government of Antigua claimed they were paying Software One Inc. for cloud storage to protect government records. Well, I'm just making an assumption here, right? Because if you're making a government payment for a company that provides such, right, it will not be for your private use in your house, right? Or your private businesses you're paying for. You know what I mean? So follow along. But the receipts tell a different story. 6 payments totaling over 549,000 US dollars, over $500,000, were made in August 2024, and all of them went to Software One Inc., 2087 Crossroads Circle Suite number 1, Waukesha, Wisconsin 53186 USA. This is according to the receipt, right? They have some receipts out there, and this is the address that I saw on there, right? At first glance, it sounds legit until you dig deeper. Because Software One officially closed the Waukesha office in early 2023. Follow along. This is getting better as we go. Their new U.S. headquarters moved to Milwaukee over a year and some before Antigua sent a single dollar. And yet, over $500,000 US dollars were wired to a closed address. Nobody's been there. Nobody's home. Haven't been there at all, period. But you send in over $500,000 there. No public government tender, no disclosed contract, no audit trail confirming what was purchased. or where any software was ever installed. If you have it in your offices, please send me a message in the comment section, or you can send me an email. And the timeline gets even more suspicious. On August 8, 2024, two payments were made. One for $58,000 plus, one for $55,000 plus. The first one for $58,000, $58,637.23 was tied to an invoice dated April 26, 2023. You're paying a bill in August 8, 2024, for something that was due April 26, 2023, over a year and some months. The second payment on August 8th was $55,033.14, tied to an invoice dated April 29th, 2024. They love April. Then we see 4 payments on August 14, 2024. These had no invoices tied to them. Just a bunch of random numbers that I can just type, numbers and letters that I can just type on my own computer screen and say, here, there is it. This is the code. You know what I mean? Like, really? All paid to the same closed Waukesha address. No delivery records, no confirmation, no public disclosure. Some invoices were over a year old, yet magically paid after the Alfa Nero yacht was sold. So the real question, or questions, why would a government back pay cloud services a year plus later? What company lets a client avoid paying for critical cloud storage for over a year? Where is the proof that any real service was ever delivered? Because if $500,000 went to protect government records, then why are the Alfa Nero code documents still missing, redacted, and delayed? The question the spreadsheet can't answer: if you really bought cloud storage to protect transparency, why are the Alfa Nero records scattered, missing, or vanished? You didn't pay for cloud security, you paid for cloud cover. The address was dead. The headquarters had moved, but the payments, they kept flowing. So, who exactly collected over $500,000 at a location that no longer existed? Where are the contracts? Where are the services? Where are the public disclosures? Because when the match was struck, it wasn't cloud smoke that rose. It was the smoke of national betrayal. Like, how do you just send money? And this is now I'm questioning the Minister of Wasteful Finance. Like, this is a very fitting name for the Minister of Wasteful Finance. Because if you receive this money, you're not even doing your due diligence. You just send $500,000 away to a scam. Yes, I called. Yes, I emailed. I Googled. I investigated, as an investigator would do. And up to now, that scam, anybody can tell it's a scam. You know when they call you on the phone and they say, hey, you just won $1 million, send so and so you could get your reward? That is the kind of scam that this company is. And if you Google it, you would see one saying, hey, we're based in Switzerland or something like that, right? And we global, whatever the case may be. Just do a little background search on that company and you would see. This smells scam. It smells shell. It smells shell company. Who got the $500,000 US? And why is still using an old address on the receipt and putting that receipt? First of all, this cloud security is not national debt. So I don't know why you have it on the spreadsheet to begin with. But people, follow me. Let's go. The cloud cover exposed. The final questions. The government claimed these payments to Software One were for cloud storage and web licensing. But the receipts exposed the truth. 1. Multiple payments, 6 in total, were rushed out in August 2024, days after the Alpha Nero yacht funds hit. 2. One invoice dated April 2023, yet magically paid over a year later. 3. Another invoice is dated April 2024, paid immediately. Well, it's not immediately because this was paid in August, right? Does this make any sense? 1. Who back pays for internet and data services over a year later? 2. Who takes cloud storage on hire purchase? This is not quotes. 3. What reputable company lets a government skip paying for over a year without suspending access? And worse, all payments were made to an address that was officially closed. The Waukesha office, if anybody ever was there, had been vacated in March of 2023. But the money kept flowing there in August 2024. No updated vendor information, no service confirmation, no public bidding process, no proof of cloud delivery. If they were paying for data security, why are the Alpha Nero financial records still missing? And it gets worse. 4 separate payments were made on the same day, August 14, 2024, totaling nearly $500,000. Who approved these payments? Where are the competitive biddings? Where are the oversight records? The office was dead, as stated before. The receipts, dirty. The money trail, devastating. Antigua, you were paying for cloud security. You were paying to bury the truth. That's what it is. Bottom line. Because it's not making sense. Like they say these days, make it make sense. The math is not mathing. And this guy is the minister of what? Finance? The spreadsheet, built after exposure. Well, this is what it appears to be. So I can say I was not there, but allegedly, based on the hot and sweaty nature of it, yeah, after. They didn't prepare financial records when they sold the yacht. They didn't prepare an audit. They didn't prepare an official Ministry of Finance report. They prepared excuses. The so-called proceeds summary, the spreadsheet they waved around as proof of transparency, wasn't created when the yacht was sold. It wasn't created when the sale proceeds first hit Antigua's banks. And I should add, the ECCB. It was created after Yulia Guria Mutlakov filed her U.S. federal court application exposing the Alpha Nero scandal to the world. Only after the subpoenas dropped, only after international media started asking questions, only after pressure mounted for proof, did they scramble to type up a hot and sweaty spreadsheet. And that spreadsheet, no independent audit attached, no accounting firm verification, no sworn declarations. Just numbers typed on a page, riddled with sloppy errors, double counting, wrong currency conversions, and suspicious payments. This wasn't transparency. This was damage control. And I could do a better job. You know what I mean? Hire me. I would type up a good sheet for you with accurate, whatever it is, receipts. Bring it to me. I can do your books. I don't know who's doing your books over there. Oh, wait, hold on. It's the Minister of Wasteful Finance. A public relations stunt pretending to be financial accountability. Because if you really kept good records, the receipt would have been produced on day one, not 6 months later under subpoena pressure. Not because journalists and federal judges started circling. A spreadsheet whipped up in panic is not transparency. It's the smoke that rises when truth is burning all around you. Gaston Browne. When the Antiguan courts finally ordered the government to disclose the full proceeds of the Alpha Nero sale, they couldn't account for everything. Specifically, $10 million missing. Not explained, not verified, not deposited as required. And when pressed for documentation, the records didn't appear. They disappeared. Court filings show that the Antiguan government could not produce the original Alpha Nero sale records from their own offices. Well, hold on, I have the solution. They didn't pay for their cloud storage, right? Software One, really? That's right. Official sales records, government property, physically vanish. Missing millions, missing records. Yet, they continue to preach transparency. Where is the $10 million? Who authorized its movement? Where did it go? How did critical sale documents just happen to disappear from official offices right when the international subpoenas were issued? Because, make no mistake, missing documents don't happen by accident. Missing millions don't happen by oversight. Transparency is when you have your receipts ready. No need to fight the courts and say, hey, we want that happening here, because of reputation. It's a burden to do and get all this paperwork. No, it's not. To clear your name, if they said, hey, you go to jail or produce the receipts, you prefer to go to jail because it's a burden to go and get the receipts to liberate yourself, liberate your name, liberate your country? Really? Secrecy is when your records vanish the minute the subpoena hit. And in this case, the smoke isn't hiding fire. It's hiding ashes where truth used to live. The judge saw through it. Well, Antigua, your people gave a good fight to block these subpoenas. However, as of April 25th, 2025, that fight is over. Judge Jesse M. Furman wasn't impressed. In an official order filed in the United States District Court of the Southern District of New York, case number .25-MC-98, open parentheses, JMF, close parentheses, Judge Furman ruled, the stay is lifted. Discovery must proceed. Subpoenaed documents must be produced under an attorney's eye only protective order, meaning the court recognized that Gaston Browne, WIOC, and the others were making weak, unsustainable arguments to hide the financial trail, aka the Antiguan Movans. Everybody involved. Judge Furman's message was crystal clear. If you're truly worried about privacy, then Only the lawyers will see the records, but hiding them completely, not an option anymore. Yes, Antigua. The judge had placed temporary holds earlier, but as of April 25th, 2025, those holds have been lifted. The subpoenas are now live. The information must be handed over, every document, every wire, every transaction for the past 5 years. It won't be made public yet. I'm waiting. Now, for now, it will be reviewed under strict attorney's eyes only protection. But the bigger question remains, if they had nothing to hide, why did they fight this hard? Why were they so desperate to keep these records sealed from public view? Because in every courtroom battle, those who resist the hardest often have the most to fear. The subpoenas survived. The truth survived. And soon, no amount of legal maneuvering will be able to stop what's coming. The smoke screen uncovered. Thank you, Prime Minister Browne, for blessing the public with a spreadsheet anyone could type up. But when real subpoenas hit, your government scattered like ashes in a firestorm. They fought to block financial records. They cried about privacy. They screamed about burden. They claimed exposure would embarrass them internationally. What do you have to hide? And through it all, the real questions multiplied. Where is the 10 million that went missing? Why were government records physically removed from offices? Why did WIOC, a supposed reputable company, fight to hide wire transfer receipts when, your typed up spreadsheet, I hope you typed it yourself, right, shows that they received money? Why was over $500,000 paid to Phantom Software Company, Software One, where offices that had been closed or maybe never opened for over a year? Why were they still receiving payments? And why is national debt being used as a cover for shady private transactions? Because from where I stand, and from the receipts you yourself presented, this isn't transparency. This is legalized theft dressed up in a spreadsheet. Forget me. And if you still believe their spin, Antigua, if you still believe, okay, your eyes are deceiving you, no, it's true, right? The spreadsheet is real, they just hate our prime minister, excuse us, the people who speak the truth. Excuse us. Why will you fight so hard to not clear your name? Like, really? Who wouldn't want to clear their name in any wrongdoing? If your claim is real, why fight against something that could exonerate you? Right? Make it make sense. But Antigua, if you still believe their spin, let's hear it from their own mouths. Darwin Telemark now says, if it was abandoned, remember that statement he made on ABS TV, April the 11th, 2025. After the government allegedly passed a law declaring it abandoned and seizing the yacht without fair process. Now he's saying he's backpedaling. Well, say for instance, that's just me, that's what he's saying really and truly. If it was abandoned, bruh, you guys said it was abandoned, so make up your mind. Then we have Mr. Gaston Browne proudly says, we'd do it again. We'd do it again. We'll do it again. Right? Even after the world expose the injustice, the lawsuits, and the missing millions. He said, we'll do it again. Well, if you'll do it again, why block the subpoena? Do it again. Bring everything, Gaston, and everything that you're hiding in the name of Jesus may it be revealed. Because you said proudly you will do it again. Then why fight it? If you will do it again, if you have nothing to hide, do it again, Gaston. And Sir Ronald Sanders boldly declared, don't forget him, it is clear the vessel belongs to Antigua. Remember he said, in everyone's minds? Even while legal ownership was still being fought over in court, he boldly said, in everyone's mind, it is clear this is ours. Like, what kind of insanity is this? You tell me, Antigua, who's taking down your image? Really? You have insanity prevailing over truth. Really? How can it be clear in everyone's mind that this belongs, like you go and thief my goat. And you're saying, well, your neighbor Mary know that's your goat, but Mary also know this is my goat. You understand? So how it could be in Mary's mind that that goat that belongs to me is yours? I don't understand that. When I'm in court saying, Mary knew that is my goat, Tom knew that's my goat, Darwin knew that's my goat, Gaston knew that's my goat. They all know it's my goat. But yet for all they fighting me in court for my goat. And they have some man saying, hey, in everybody's mind, that is my neighbor goat. Really? Really? You guys playing too much childhood games in politics. Let's proceed. So tell me, Antigua, who really destroyed your country's reputation? The critics? Or the very men holding the match and fanning the smoke screen? Because the facts don't lie, the receipts don't lie, and the truth doesn't need a spreadsheet whipped up in a panic to defend itself. Antigua, the world is watching. The subpoenas floodgates have opened, and no amount of smoke can hide the firestorm of truth that is coming. At the end of the day, when real subpoenas dropped, when real banks were called to show the trails, when real financial records were demanded, the one who preached transparency fought to bury the truth. They fought for secrecy, they fought for silence, they fought to keep you in the dark. But the real questions cannot be silenced. Again, where's the $10 million? Who collected $500,000 for a ghost software company? And why the WIOC, a supposed reputable company, fight to hide wire transfers? For what is a man to gain the world and lose his soul? The fire of truth has been lit. Now it's time for the people to demand full accountability with receipts, not rumors. Because the minute they chose to hide, the minute they chose secrecy over truth, in choosing to protect themselves and betray the nation, they have seized the world. But they surrendered their souls. And history will remember that. And now, with subpoenas advancing and discovery moving forward, Antigua's day of reckoning, let me reel that back, not Antigua. Antigua's present government's day of reckoning is no longer a question. It's inevitable. The truth has breached their walls, and no amount of lies can hold it back now. What they refuse to face in the light, they will now answer for in the fire. This is the Caribbean Spot. Don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and leave your comments in the comments below. I'm reading all the comments and I will answer to most of them. If you say something ridiculous, I may tell you about it, right? Correct you in truth, right? Being my brother's keeper. Anyway, guys, see you on the next video. Bye.